Welcome to this next session. I am really excited to be jumping into this important conversation with Alejandra Brady to discuss the energetic relationship we have with our home, the way energy flows through our home, how it gets blocked, how it can be harmonized, how it can be enhanced. And the key things to know about that to create more energetic harmony in our life as a whole. So Alejandra Brady joins me. She is a feng shui expert, and I'll give you a little bit of background on her, and then we will jump into this conversation. After 15 years designing the interiors of beautiful homes and offices, Alejandra found herself missing something. She took a break from work and focused on her most important client, herself. Her mental and emotional interior needed a reboot. She found that in feng shui. Working with and studying under a feng shui master practitioner helped Alejandra unlock a new and wonderful set of principles to combine with years of high-end design success. With these combined experiences, Alejandra delivers beautifully designed spaces that improve the lives of her clients, their employees, and their families. She experiences true inner joy when she sees the impact of her service on the lives of her clients. Her mission is to enhance far more than the appearance of their home or office, but to improve their well-being and lifestyle in a way that they had not imagined. She was born in Austin, Texas, and was adopted at just 5 weeks old and raised in a Mexican American family in Laredo. She's fluent in English and Spanish and graduated from the University of Notre Dame. She is a true master when it comes to the energy flow in a home in feng shui. Let's dive in. All right, welcome, Alejandra. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited. It's going to be
I'm
a fun
really
conversation.
Absolutely. So I'd love to begin, if you would, by just helping us understand how you got started with feng shui, what it means to you, maybe for people who it's a new concept for, to help orient us with how you view it, like what it is and how you work with it and how you came to do that.
So, feng shui found me, honestly, and truly it did. I have been an interior designer for over 20 years at this point. My son was 9 when he kind of said, "Yeah, mom, I'm kind of done with you being, homeroom mom and all that." And he just turned 30 on Sunday. So that tells you how long I've been doing that.
Yeah.
But when I turned 50, I had just started recovering. At 47, I had like my body just broke down. I had spinal fusion, lower lumbar. I had a bladder surgery that went really bad. It had to be repaired, and I had a full hysterectomy. So from 47 to 50, I was like, woe is me. And I was just getting back on track. And so at 50, I celebrated in September. I was feeling good. And I found out that all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I had to have cervical fusion, or I
Mm.
could end up paralyzed.
Oh, geez.
And I went right back into woe is me mode because I'm like, I'm just coming out of this funk, It's like, what is going on with my life? What is going on here? And my husband had to have surgeries. And I'm like, this is just like a lot of surgeries. And I had a client whose home I was doing. And she, at the time, and probably still is, she's very advanced, was much more energetically inclined than I even knew I was. You know what I mean? Because until you start studying this stuff, you don't really realize. I firmly believe we all have gifts, but some of us may realize them in this lifetime, some of us may not. I, up until this point, had not really done so. But she said one day, I have a feng shui consultant coming to my house. And she said that if she got a second consultation in Tampa, because she was traveling, that she wouldn't charge either consultation travel time. And something in me just said to say yes,
Mm.
and I do
Yeah.
believe that when we are ready, the things that we are ready for appear. So we went to her house. I took notes because as the designer, I was in charge of implementing those changes for her in her home. Then they came to my house. And we went to each other's houses just to kind of help each other and help us remember. And I was taking notes. And within 10 minutes, this practitioner, who I always give a shout out because she changed my life, her name is Karen Rock Carter. Unbeknownst to us, she is a feng shui master Her book has been published in 9 different languages throughout the world. She has traveled the world doing consultations, and here she was at my house. But I didn't know this. I just said yes.
Uh-huh.
And she told me within 10 minutes of being at my house, you're going to be doing this. And
Mm.
I was so focused on my surgery that I just said, yeah, no, I really don't care. Just tell me what I need to do to get ready for surgery. And that's that. I just didn't have the bandwidth. I did what she said, even though we did the entire home, during a consultation, and I do the same thing when I do a full consultation with someone. We look at the entire home. But I just focused on what I needed to focus on. And that's what I tell everybody. Focus on what's most important at the moment.
Mm.
And then get to the rest whenever you can.
Oh.
So I did. I had a great recovery. I then, the next 6 months, kind of proceeded to implement slowly all the other things that she suggested, because even my husband had said what an energy shift there was just from doing our bedroom.
Wow.
And I reached back out and said, hey, remember me from like 6 months ago? I'm sure you've done like 300 consultations by now, but I think I need to add this to my tool belt. I want to do this for my clients because I love designing homes. I love working on homes. But if I can also change your life by working on your home, can you imagine?
Yeah.
Um, so she took me on as a student. I studied, I closed my design business until I was recertified under her as a feng shui consultant, because I do believe you should work with somebody who is certified, not someone who's just read a book or two. You can get very confused if you do that. And it is an energetic practice, so you have to take that very seriously, that you're working with people's homes and their spaces, right? So I got certified under her. And this is where I am today, 8 years later. I am now a best-selling author. I do global consultations. I mean, it's just insane what has happened. I'm also certified as a biophilic designer and as a crystal healer. And I don't touch people as a crystal healer. I did that to learn how to bring crystals into your home if that's something that you want, so that I could bring the right crystals into your space for you. Again, intentionally, energetically, all the support the people whose spaces I'm in.
Amazing. Isn't that
Yeah.
funny? That one, yes, that's like that full body. I know this in my core is meant to be like, and it doesn't have any logical reasoning,
No,
right? It's just
I
that,
didn't even know
yes.
what it was.
Yeah.
I honestly didn't even know what it was, but something inside of me. And the last thing I needed to do, by the way, was to spend money on this consultation.
Yeah.
And you could see my husband's arms; they were literally crossed like this when she came into the house,
Yeah.
because he's like, "Great, you just found like another loophole." It's like, if you're not doing it for design for your clients, now you're like, it's another loophole on how to spend money.
Yeah.
But he will tell you it is the best money we've ever spent. It has changed our relationship. We've been married almost 35 years. It'll be 35 years in June.
Mm.
Um, it has changed our lifestyle. It has changed what we do. We ended up having a second home in Sedona and moving there during the pandemic and writing a book during that time. Like, it's just created so many opportunities for me
Yeah.
because I changed the energy of our space. And again, moving a piece of furniture or placing a crystal or putting an orchid in your wealth corner isn't transactional. That doesn't mean that the next day you're going to get the $1 million you wanted for, or the speedboat, or the house, or whatever it is. What it's doing is shifting the energy to then create the opportunities that you're wanting to call in. So
Yes.
I
This
think
is what
people
I
need to
love.
remember that. A lot of people think, well, I put my orchid in the wealth corner and nothing's happened. I'm like, well, A, did you do it with intention? B, did you clear the way? Did you work with the fun? Like, it works if you work with it. It's a two-way street.
Right. Because what you're really doing is harmonizing like the energy flow that has to do with
Absolutely.
that part of life, right? So, I mean, I
Yes.
work with energy flow in the body. I connect
Right.
to it from nutrition, and I'm really curious. Is there any overlap? Because you brought up that you were experiencing these physical issues before you did this feng shui
Yes.
consultation and then moved into it yourself. But I'm always like, I always talk about like the overlap I see between the relationship we have with our energy in our own body. There is very reflective often of the energy we have flowing through our home, flowing through our money, like a lot of the tangible things that we have
Sure.
that we orient to in life, right? Did things, do you credit are you able to draw that line of like how your surgery went? I mean, clearly I'm assuming it went well, like how things shifted in
It
your
did.
body.
It did. I've got a nice plate with 6 screws in my neck.
Okay.
So I have that.
Yeah.
I will tell you what she found because it was such an aha moment for me. And that's kind of what led me to wanting to do this and implementing this with my clients. Because before I could make it look pretty, right? I mean, anytime you've been doing something for a long time, you should be able to do it well. But to get to the bottom of what was going on in my clients' lives, that's what's really fascinating to me. So our bedroom was right over our dining room, and our bed literally was right over our dining room. And when we walked into our dining room, she said a couple of things to me. She said, "This space feels dead," which is true. We never used it. And she said, "This doesn't look like you. I can see you reflected in all other areas of your home, and this space doesn't look like you," which was true. I had inherited a whole bunch of stuff from my parents who had passed away. And it wasn't stuff that really resonated with me, but I was keeping it out of guilt because it all belonged to them. And I didn't know where else to put it. So I put it in the room that I never went into.
Mm.
And then the last thing that she said was, "What's in here?" And she pointed to a chest of drawers that was directly under our bed, like where our bed was against the back wall in our bedroom, right below it in our dining room, because, the table will be centered, was this big chest of drawers. And in it were my silver set, so my sterling silver flatware,
Mhm.
my mom's, and my grandmother's. So 2 inherited, 1 mine from when we got married. She goes, "How many knives are in there?" Well, I go, "Well, I mean, at the very least 36, right? Because they're all place settings for 12. She goes, "So you're sleeping under 36 knives, like
Oh,
over 36 knives." And in feng shui, knives, swords, anything like that is related to an increase in surgeries if you're around it and you surround yourself. Like if you're sleeping with a pocket knife in your nightstand or whatever, that. And we were sleeping over 36 knives.
wow.
So what is that? I was like, whoa. So of course we moved that right away. I just located it to another part of the dining room. Um, but yes, so what's going on in your house is more than likely going on in your life, is more than likely going on in your body. It's all so connected. And so I am not a nutritionist, but I have been living clean and eating organic and doing all of that since I was 40. So almost 20 years of that now. So we were already doing that part of it, non-toxic beauty products, non-toxic cleaning products. All of that affects you. And people don't see that connection. And I don't understand why, but it's hard for people to see that connection. They do not want to give up their Clorox and their, toxic chemicals because they don't feel like their space is clean if they don't have that. Their beauty products, and like, if you're putting it in your mouth, if you're putting it on your skin, and if you're having it on your body, it's affecting you.
Yeah.
So I talk about all that during all my consultations. I will look under their sink, I will look under their medicine cabinets, and I will look at their stuff because to me it's all part of it.
Yeah. It sounds like such a thorough process. It is,
I try to make it that way, just
yeah, I mean, that's how you get into all the nooks and crannies and figure it all out,
right.
right? I mean, one of the things that I often observe is that like that usually what people need to do is really get in their body to feel what it is they need to feel what's going right. Like if you're not fully in your body, it's really hard to land in that gut knowing, to really like to be to fully be who you are, right? So I'm wondering,
Right.
is there a way, like in when you are working with feng shui, are you helping people? Is there a similarity in that you're helping people like be able to fully be in their home?
That takes a little bit more time. You know what I mean? And I try to start with the stuff that I feel based on my conversations. Because when I do a consultation, we normally sit down for about a good half hour before I even start walking around the house
Mhm.
to understand what's going on in their lives. So I listen a lot. If somebody is telling me that they are stuck, that they are burnt out, I listen for those key words.
Mhm.
And then I give them some really simple things that they can implement physically before I ask them to start, feel it in your body, do all this. I find that if I give them some very easy steps where they feel empowered and in control and feel like, oh, this is going to help make an immediate shift, they're more open, like little baby steps, right? So little by little. So as you feel like you're taking control over your environment, then I think that gives you a little bit more of an empowered feeling to start feeling those feelings that maybe otherwise you don't want to be feeling. Because I find a lot of times people don't, like, I've gone into consultations. I had this lovely girl, she's actually still a client, but her initial consultation, I walked in the house and I know what I saw,
Mm-hmm.
and we sat down to talk, and she wasn't telling me what I know that I was seeing. And
Mm-hmm.
so I very gently asked a couple of questions. Oh no, oh no, everything's fine. Oh no, 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 finances are great. Marriage is great. I'm like, okay, okay. So I just let her talk. As we walked through the rooms, I said, well, we can maybe do this here, or maybe I'm seeing this here. By the end of the consultation, she was crying, telling me what a shambles her finances were in and that her marriage was on its last legs.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so by giving her some easy things to empower her along the way that she didn't feel was so overwhelming, it allowed her to just kind of break open, right? And
Yeah.
then we could really get to the real nitty gritty of the problem,
There was
right?
that
Because your house
trust
is
to
telling
develop.
me everything I need to know.
Right, right. I get that. I totally get that. And in some ways, are you helping then? I mean, you are developing a relationship with your client that's embedded then in trust, but like you're also helping your client develop a relationship with their home. Is
Sure.
that
And
fair to
let them
say?
know and help them understand how their house is talking to them.
Mm-hmm.
Because our homes are talking to us all the time, just like our bodies are,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, if you eat garbage, you're going to feel like garbage. Your body's telling you, stop it. I'm not a garbage disposal. Stop putting crap in me, right?
Right, right.
The same way with our homes. If there are leaks, it is telling you energy is leaking out of here, finances are leaking out. If you've got burnt out light bulbs. I was at this really fun party in New Orleans last year, and these were not clients. So I also am very careful to not overstep and overshare when I'm not in the middle of a consultation, right? But we were all eating at their dining room, and I looked up, and I kid you not, 7 of the 8 bulbs of their chandelier were burnt out,
Oh, wow.
completely burnt out. Like only one bulb was on. I'm like, you're hosting people and you've got like, this is
Yeah.
interesting in itself, right? But in talking with them, they were telling me how burnt out they both were, the husband and the wife. They're like, we are exhausted all the time. And they use the word burnt out.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm just like, yeah, I agree. You are. Your house is telling me that you are. And so I very gently just said, we're not in a consultation, but because you use this word, I just thought I might share this with you. Change out the light bulbs and see what happens. And I haven't
Right.
heard back. I don't know if they appreciated that or not, but your house very literally is talking to you just the way your body is.
And then are there like certain areas of your home then that you're looking at when you hear those words, when you hear someone talk about like their relationship or their finances or their like different aspects of their life, are there key parts of a home that you're looking at that reflect that? Is it different for each home, or is it the same and you're like different areas of a home reflect those things and they're all, do you know what I mean? Like, are they the same or are
Yeah,
there?
oh, absolutely. Yes, yes. And I was going to pull out, I created a feng shui card deck, but inside of it, I have what is called the Bagua map. So I'm
Okay.
showing it to you here. And I don't know if this is going to be all video or video and audio, but it's basically shaped like a tic tac toe board. And it divides your home into 9 areas of your life. And these are considered the 9 main energetic areas of your home. And if your listeners want one, if you just link my Instagram to this, or my website, they can go and they can download a free one
Oh, great.
so they can
Awesome.
use it if they're interested in using that. I will preface this by saying there are different schools of feng shui.
Mm.
I am trained in BTB feng shui. That is what I am certified in. And that is a more westernized approach because the majority of the homes I work with are a Western style home, meaning, your swimming pools are in the back, they're not in the front yard. It's just, what I mainly deal with.
Yeah.
So that is why I chose this type of feng shui. Sometimes it's called a little bit more modern feng shui. It's not based on compass directions. So people get very mixed up, and I get a lot of DMs on Instagram saying that, what I said is contradicting this. I'm like, well, they're different schools. So what I would say to everyone who is interested in diving into feng shui, whether it's a little bit or a lot, is find some accounts maybe that you like, that you resonate with, that you're liking the tips that they're giving. Find out what kind of certification that practitioner has, make sure they're certified, and then kind of stick to that school, because you'll end up having a much more successful experience than if you're trying to pull a little bit from here and there and everywhere. You'll end up more confused. And so when we look at the Bagua, the bottom center square is your career area. So almost always I will start by looking at your home's entrance. 90% of homes, even maybe 95, have their front door like in the middle central area of their house. So that tells me a lot about what's going on in your career and your life. The other areas of the Bagua include helpful people and travel, children and creativity, love and romance, right, and relationships, fame, how you are seen by people in the outside world, not necessarily if you want to be famous, unless that is, what you're looking for, but this is how are you seen in business? How are you seen by the public? Like, what is your external image? Then you have wealth, which of course everybody knows, family, and then you have skills and knowledge. And in the center square, gua, middle, whatever you want to call it, is health. Because of course, if you don't have health, the rest of this really doesn't matter much. It's the one that touches everything. So I would say in my particular practice, people come to me mainly for finances, health, relationships. I haven't had a lot of people who come, I want to gain more skills. I mean, that just isn't what I have experienced. Career, which I would also, correlate career with wealth, right? Because they go together. If they're feeling very stuck in their career, what can we do? Chances are, if they're stuck in their career and feeling stuck in their career, finances are not what they would like them to be, right? Or if they're feeling stuck in relationships, if they're feeling stuck health-wise. So those are my three biggies. But what I like to tell everybody is, going back to the orchid in your wealth corner analogy, just plopping an orchid up here isn't going to do much. You kind of have to look at the house as a whole. And if you don't have helpful people, AKA clients, how are you going to amass more wealth? It all works together. So I like to tell people these all work together in one way or another. If you're stuck in your career, maybe the problem's not here at the front of the house. Maybe it's in your fame and reputation. How are you being seen? Maybe that's where the blockage is. So part of my full consultation is to do, like, get a blueprint of your house. People will, or sketch it, whatever you've got. And then I'll apply the Bagua map over it. See if there's spaces, is your wealth area missing? Does it not exist? Do you have a U-shaped house so you don't have a career area? Is your garage in your skills and knowledge? So what's going on in your house, and how can we apply the Bagua to help figure out where maybe the blocks and obstacles are based on our conversations, and how can we let that flow in a better way?
All together, right? Like
all together. I like all together. And not everybody's house is going to be a square or a rectangle. Right. Our house in Sedona was all about the views. So we had this funky, crazy layout. You can apply the Bagua to each room. You just put your career area at the main door to the room. You can apply it to your desk. You can apply it to your car. You can apply it to your nightstand, to your bed. So there's so many different ways to work very intentionally with this tool. And it helps you become your own detective, because each gua comes, we'll stick on the career just because it's easy. Each gua has a color, an element, and a shape that's associated with it. It also has a body part, and it also has a number. So there's so many different ways to work with it. So the career, the number or the color associated is, it's black, or like a super bottom of the ocean, inky blue. It is a water element, because again, we're talking about flow, right? We want flow into our homes. So the shape means it's free form. There isn't a structured shape, because structured shapes don't flow. It is, what is this one? Is it the ear? I believe this one's the ear. And then it is, yes, because fame is the eyes. So they kind of go together, the ears and the eyes, the mouth, they're all over the place. and number one. So there's so many different ways that you can work with the Bagua to figure it out and then implement solutions that work for you.
And so, I mean, you mentioned the orchid. Are the solutions based on those, like the elements that are associated with, like the element, the number, the color? Or do you bring those in to help encourage like better flow in that space? Or how do you work to, because you can't change your home, right? Necessarily. You
Right.
mentioned your home is stable,
Sometimes, but
right?
no, usually, yeah, right, right.
So
So
how, when there's a, yeah.
I try and work with what there is, right? I mean, I don't come in and tell you, throw out all your furniture. We have to start from scratch.
Right.
I have one instance where all I did was move a piece of artwork from one room to another, and it changed everything for them.
Mm,
So each case is individual.
yeah.
Each client is individual. I will work as much as possible with what you have. There
Mhm.
are two different types of adjustments, cures, remedies, whatever you want to call them, whatever works for you. Actually, and then there's also enhancements, right? So an adjustment would be like if you are having a blockage, let's identify the blockage and what do we need to do
Mm,
to clear that blockage. Like, do you have too much furniture in the room? Sometimes maybe it's just get rid of, but don't
mm,
add to
yeah.
create more flow. And then enhancement would be like, okay, once we've removed the obstacles, how do we want to move forward and call in more prosperity? Then we can
Mm,
add the orchid. But if
mm,
your house is already overcluttered and dirty and
yeah.
blocked everywhere, popping it from the wall corner is going to do nothing for you.
Yeah,
You
that
know,
makes sense.
to look at what's going on first. And then, yes, because I have a design, I am not a fan unless I absolutely have to do it. And there are instances where I have had to do it of just the feng shui crystals randomly hanging from spots in your house, or
Uh-huh.
some practitioners will, if you have a sharp corner that's facing you, they'll suggest hanging a piece of fabric from the ceiling to the floor just
Hmm.
in that corner.
Yeah.
That does not work for me as a designer. you
Uh-huh.
know, it
Yeah.
has to be aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah.
So I have taken my design knowledge, my biophilic design knowledge,
Uh-huh.
and kind of combined it with feng shui to try and create um, solutions that are
Uh-huh.
also aesthetically pleasing and that can be photographed.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's just
Yeah.
me, right? Everybody does it differently. And it's not to say one way's right or one way's wrong. This
Yeah.
is the way that I've chosen to approach it because personally, I could not just have, you know, strips of fabric hanging
Right.
down
Right.
randomly in a room. It does not work for me. And for most of my clients, I would say it probably doesn't work for them either. If
Right.
they come to me and that's what they want, clearly I'll do it. But
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
would say, let's see if there's another way that we can figure out how to work around this and mitigate this issue and perhaps a way that feels a little bit more sensical. You know what I mean?
Yeah. 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 So it's you're working with like releasing things that are blocking the flow of energy, and then like you said, enhancements to help bring more
Right.
energy in. Um, what about kind of overall, like what are some things people can do to just address like energy flow overall in a home?
I would say, first and foremost, start with your front door.
Mm,
The front door is our mouth of chi. And just like our mouth and just how we take nutrition in through our mouth, energy for our house is taken in and nutrition for our home is taken in through the front door.
okay.
So if it's a hot mess out there, then you could be doing all the feng shui adjustments in the world on the inside, but you're not addressing where the flow is coming in. So
Yeah.
first and foremost, look at that front door, look at your entryway, stand outside as if you were company coming in and look at your house for the first time. And
Mm,
easy things that you can do. Look at the lights, right? Are the lights burnt out? Are your front porch lights burnt out? Because then you're not calling in energy.
yeah.
Are the plants dead?
Mm,
And if they are, get rid of them and bring in some fresh, vibrant plants.
mhm.
Add a new doormat, refresh your doormat. I like to refresh mine every Lunar New Year.
Mm,
And I just think that encourages,
mhm,
fresh energy coming our way. I prefer to have a black one because
mhm.
black is, again, the color of the career gloss. So you're
Yeah.
reinforcing it. So
Okay.
I don't like doors have your initials in them or your name on them,
Uh-huh.
that means people are stepping on your name every time they're walking in and out of your home.
Yeah.
If you think about that. And also, and I know people love them, but I'm just saying from an energetic standpoint,
Yeah.
that is, I have a client who is highly, highly successful, and it's for their business. They have their name. And even though I've said it several times,
Mhm.
they keep it. And for them, it works. I think we've done everything else to a point where, you know, that's not affecting them as
Yeah.
much. But
Yeah.
I always suggest not having your name or your initials on the doormats coming in and out of your home.
Yeah.
Also, and I'll see it more maybe around Halloween. So I guess if it's just for a small period of time, it's not as big a deal. Um, do you want to go to someone's house where the doormat says "keep away"?
Yeah. Right.
Like, you know, I'm
Yeah.
just saying sometimes it's common sense,
Yeah. Yeah.
So just kind of pay attention because all those things matter. Is your door in good working order? Is the paint peeling? Is the stain peeling? What shape's it in? Is it dirty?
Mhm.
I live in Tampa, Florida. The pollen is just at its all-time high right now. Everything is green. So
Yeah.
I'm going out there and wiping that front door like every other day right now.
Oh.
Um, does the hardware stick? A lot
Mm.
of times when people tell me that they're feeling stuck, whether it's in life, in their career, in their relationships,
Mhm.
that front door isn't working well. So I would say start there. That's a bite-sized one that everyone can do,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And then you step inside. Are you stepping into a pile of shoes? Does that door not open all the way? Are there a pile of shoes behind it that's blocking opportunities? It's creating
Mhm.
obstacles. So,
And is that
so
like a
many different things.
yeah, that's amazing. That's so fun to just even that one area. I'm like
Yeah,
thinking through my own
start
front
there.
door now.
Everybody
uh,
does this. Anytime I've
yeah.
interviewed people are like, I see them looking and I know what they're doing. They're looking at they're thinking about their area and their eyes
Yeah.
are rolling back in their head. They're like, huh.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I'm thinking about in my home and actually my childhood home too, we didn't really use we don't use the front door a lot. Is that
Yep.
something like that you want to use it more often?
Yes. Yes. And so even if we have an attached garage as well. So we come in and out of our garage more times than our front door every day. But I have trained my husband and myself to open that door at least once or twice a day and to walk out through the front to go get the mail.
Okay.
To
Yeah.
make sure that we are using that door at least a few times on a
Yeah.
daily basis because that is super important and that is a great question and I'm so glad that you asked that.
Yeah. What about like decluttering overall? I'm assuming like organization. What role does like organization, people are really interested in organizing everything right
Yes.
now, Is that
Yes.
is
Yes.
that
Yes.
a
Yes.
key part of things too? How
Oh,
important is that?
absolutely. I'm actually teaching a workshop, a live workshop this
Oh.
weekend in person here in the Tampa area. And
Mhm.
it's all about decluttering
Okay.
because it is such an important part. Keeping things, I mean, go back to my example. I did let go of the majority of the things that my parents had left me that were no longer resonating with me. I kept the ones that were. Now that my son is married, I gifted one of the sets of silver to them.
Mhm.
I invited her over and I said, listen, if you like it, I'm also not just trying to throw it at you, right? Because then there's
Yeah.
the same, I'm following, right? It's the guilt. I'm giving it because I don't want it anymore. And I just said, if you like any of this, take as little or as much as you want. And so she took one full set of silver. And, I've just been very ready to let things go that no longer serve me, that no longer resonate. And it doesn't mean I don't value what my parents had or their things. I just know that I can still think about them and they're still around me without their stuff weighing me down. I
That's
think
such a
that's
good,
the
such a
biggest
good
thing
thing.
for people. Yes,
Yeah.
guilt. I find so much guilt. I have the loveliest client in Orlando, and I adore her. And every time I go over to her home, because once we do the consultation, then it's up to people if they want to work with me to help them implement all the things or not. And so she is one who has asked me to come in and help her do the design portion of it. And she uses words like, yeah, my mom dumped this on me. Oh,
Mhm.
yeah, this used to belong to my dad. oh yeah, I don't really like needlepoint, but my mom gave me all this stuff. And I'm like,
Mm.
you don't have to keep it,
Right.
you
Yeah.
know? So one of my biggest jobs, I feel, and one of the things I'm there to help people most, and I'm sure it's the same for you, it's like to let go of that guilt that keeps us attached to things that are not serving us.
Definitely.
And it's weighing us down. I mean, I I find, and I mean, I can't make this promise. It's, don't come after me if it doesn't happen to you. But I find that when people really do a super, super intentional, massive declutter, whether it's of their closet, because that's what's closest to you. So I would start there,
Mm.
of their home, of their kitchen, pantry, refrigerator, freezer, all that stuff. Almost always people are like, hey, guess what? I lost a few pounds too. I'm like,
Yeah.
yes, you did.
I
Because
believe it.
energetically you've released and now your body feels like it can release. It
Yeah.
doesn't feel that need to hold on to everything,
Right.
So clutter is a huge, huge, huge part. And clutter can affect our health. Clutter can affect our relationships. You
Mm.
know, um, brain fog, all those things are affected by clutter because if we don't have a sanctuary to come home to, if we don't have an oasis or a space where our nervous system can relax,
Hmm.
then we're always in that, fight or flight mode. And
Yeah.
that's just not helpful to anybody in the space. That's the other thing people don't always realize. It's like it's not just about you.
Right.
Clutter, like anything else, affects everyone in the space, from your kids to your spouse to your pets, you
Hmm.
know. And reversely, when people say, well, I believe in feng shui, but my husband doesn't believe in it, I'm like, doesn't matter. If you're implementing these changes, everyone in your house will benefit from them, down to the pets.
Right. So you'll just feel it'll feel different. Like I'm sure it just
Right,
feels different.
right.
Yeah.
And like my husband with the crossed arms, literally the crossed arms. Now anytime I say, hey, I'd like to do this change or I want to make this change because of this, he's like, sure,
Yeah. He
because he
trusts you.
understands. Yeah, he trusts the process,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Oh, amazing. Well,
Yeah.
I am so excited because you're offering listeners a 1 hour virtual one-on-one mini feng shui
Yes.
consultation, which is so generous
Yes.
of you. And then, like you mentioned, you have the Bagua map available on your website. So we'll link
Mm-hmm.
all of that in the notes. And I have so much gratitude for you coming on today and sharing all of the wisdom you have about homes and energy and feng shui with us. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh, another wonderful session. Before we head out, I want to remind you all about the last session of the summit, which will be a special masterclass with me. And here's the truth: sacred energy cannot be sustained without deep nourishment. I'm not just talking about food here, I'm talking about how we care for and nourish our entire being: body, mind, heart, spirit. In this session, we'll explore how to become more attuned to your own energy, how to work with it rather than subconsciously moving against it, how to nourish yourself in a way that supports your fullest, most vibrant expression. Join me for this beautiful final gathering. Let's walk together in deeper awareness, authentic embodiment, and lasting transformation. I'll see you there.